What is up? What is up, Strike Squad? So, I'll start out by saying, if you like the content, please like and subscribe. There's a lot of people right now who aren't subscribed, but keep coming back to watch the videos. So, like, I appreciate the support. Um, but if you really like what we're doing here, feel free to like and subscribe. So, what we're gonna talk about today is how to get out of Emerald. So I'm gonna start by saying this. Emerald has two problems, in my opinion. Number one, it is the distribution of ranks, and number two is the smurfing. Okay, there is a huge issue with the distribution of ranks. Um, like when you look at the fact that Emerald 4 to Emerald 1 is like 18%, and when you're talking about Diamond, you're talking about 95 percentile. Okay, that's the difference between getting like a C plus and an A in a class. So all the people who are getting like a C plus in the class, and all the people who are getting an A in the class are currently living in the same like curve. They're living in the same box. Okay, so like what this should tell you is that if you're an Emerald and you're an Emerald 4 or you're an Emerald 3 and you're like, well, I'm going to climb to Emerald 1, you're a C player. You're not even a B player. You're definitely not an A player, okay? Because if you were, you would probably already be in the top of Emerald. Okay, now maybe you are, but you're running into the smurfing problem. So that leaves us to two things. Number one, okay, we can talk about that. What do we do about the fact that the distribution is crap? Nothing. There's nothing that can be done about that. Okay, so then what do we do about the fact that, my teammates are crap, or that the other team keeps getting a smurf, or this or that, or etc.? Well, there's 3 points that I really think are keeping a lot of people stuck in Emerald overall, and I kind of want to go through those. So, the first thing I want to talk about is the fact that, and the reason I bring up the C plus to A comparison, is that I think a lot of people in Emerald struggle with thinking that they're an A player. It's like, I made it to Emerald, I'm in high elo, I no longer, like I should just be stomping my games and I should just be going up. Whereas the truth is like, there's a break point here where like, you may understand last hitting, you may understand priority, you may understand roaming, you may understand tempo, you may understand, trading, you may understand cooldowns, you may understand summoners, you may understand macro, you may understand all of these things, but the difference between like an Emerald player doing this and a Diamond player doing this is the Diamond player is just a little bit better at everything. Just a little bit better at everything. And I think once we learn a concept, it's very common in League of Legends for people to say like, oh, well, I'm good at this, so I'm good to move on to the next thing. And it's like, no. Do you have perfect CS? Do you never miss any minions like inside of laning phase and later on in the game? Like, do you CS perfectly? Well, no, I don't CS perfectly. Okay, then that's something that you need to continue working on. That's not something that like is no longer in your to-do list. So I think that there's this level of like, what I'm going to call it is, I'm going to say the first issue for a lot of Emerald players is that they are super passionate about climbing, but when it comes to the basics, they are they're complacent. They're complacent, and you have to get back to the basics and make sure that you are always working on these things. You have to get back to the basics. Number two, it's tilt. The other thing that is keeping you in Emerald, or a lot of other people in Emerald, is tilt. And I can say this from experience because I spent a lot of time being very, very angry when I was bouncing between Emerald like 4 and Emerald 3 and not, just not being happy when I was playing the game because I was so like annoyed that I was just going up and down and up and down, especially at the beginning of the season when there were issues with like the 30 LP gains and the 30 LP losses. So the question is like, okay, how do we deal with tilt, right? Like, well, you should just be happy. You should just like not, be upset while you're playing the game. And it's like, well, I've tried that and it's not really working for me, So now what? What do I do? And it's like, well, okay, fair enough, right? Like, what do you do? what's the plan now? And it's like, okay, so here's what you need to do. You need to make sure that you are focused on learning, not winning. That's how you stop tilting when your focus is on improving and not LP. And if your focus is on improving and not LP, you may lose 5 games in a row, right? To learn 2 concepts, and then you'll turn around and become a better player and you'll win the next 7. Okay? Climbing is not a linear path. Your climb is never going to look straight like this, right? It's going to look like this, and then like that, and this, and then that, and then this, and this, and this, and this, and that, and then this, right? It's a different journey. So we have to focus that, like, when we're hitting these low points, when we're losing games, we have to make sure that we're learning something and taking something out of it so we can continue that upward trend, right? So changing your mindset from winning to learning, right? So I'm going to say winning to learning is the second concept because that's what will help you avoid tilt, right? And then the first concept is continue with the basics. The basics are what got you to Emerald in the first place, right? Having better farm, being better at trading, being better at vision, being better at roaming, right? They got you here. They're still important, so still focus on them. And then number 3, what I would say the biggest problem is with Emerald players is that they play too much to their team. So if you have climbed through Emerald, or if you've climbed through Silver, or you've climbed through Gold, and you've climbed through, Bronze, you learn very quickly that, like, okay, the people who are on your team most likely are not that great, and they don't know what they're doing, and they're not, like, making intelligent decisions, right? So when we look at this and we go, okay, so my team is bad, don't play to your team. Don't play to your team, okay? A perfect example is Void Grubs, right? Like, if I'm top lane and I'm on red side right now and I've got a double stacked wave shoving in and my jungler starts Void Grubs and I don't have priority and Urgot's roaming down and they're saying, hey, help, 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 help. Don't help. Collect the wave, collect the CS. They're wrong. Stick to your guns, stick to your decisions, and don't let teams influence you. The reason why it's really important to not let teams influence you is because, if I'm being honest, I would say the third most important thing that helped me get out of, like, Emerald was shot calling. And when I say shot calling, I don't mean typing out to my teammates, hey, this is what we're going to do, or flaming my teammates, or telling them they're bad, or telling them to listen to me, or telling them to follow me. I'm talking about I have chat off and going into a game and pretty much coming out of base, at 20 minutes and doing things like saying, hey, I'm gonna go top lane. I need someone mid, I need someone bot, and then I need someone at drag, and I have teleport up. And then saying, I'll TP drag fight from top, and then they're all like, oh, okay, I know what I need to do. I need to push out the mid lane and the bot lane and go to drag. Now, let's say I would say probably 2 or 3 times out of this, your team's not going to know what to do. And, like, they're going to be like, I don't know what any of those pings meant. But sometimes, I would probably say like 6 or 7 out of 10 times, you actually will start to orchestrate your team to do the right things. Getting Baron in this game is such a big way to win and close out games. And even in Emerald, teams just don't do it at the right time. You'll see 2-3 people bot, and no one will start Baron because they're too distracted doing other things. And you just need to do that and then walk over there and start hitting it. And if they don't come, you have to stop, right? But at least you're trying to get your team on the same page as you, right? And, like, there's also, like, that's probably the first part of the equation, is those 3 things. I would say that you need to keep focusing on the basics, keep focusing on the fundamentals so you get better with them. The second thing being that, like, you have to change your mindset that you're here to learn, you're not here to win. Otherwise, you're going to tilt off the face of the earth. And number 3 is, like, you have to start shot calling for your team. Don't assume that these people know what they're doing. If you don't like a play, tell them to back off. If you're coming and you're on your way, ping that you're ganking. If you're roaming down from, river and there's a fight starting mid, tell them you're on your way. Tell them to continue the fight, right? Like, you have to start communicating, and then once you start communicating, your teammates' synergy will get better, and there's a lot more chance that you can close out these games with these bad teammates. But if you're not communicating and things don't go your way, then you can't look around and be like, oh, well, it's my team's fault. You're not communicating with your team, okay? It's just as much your fault as it is theirs. Now, that's only to point one of what's going on in Emerald with the distribution between like the C+ players and the A players. So now we're going to talk about the second thing, which is, right, so we talked about the C+ to A, right? And now what we're going to talk about is smurfing. So what do we do about smurfs? Okay, well, here's the truth. Nothing. There's nothing you can do about it. They're going to be in the game. You can't stop them from being in the game. They're not going anywhere. They are here to stay, okay? Unfortunately, I'm not like the biggest fan of the smurfing problem, trust me. But at the same time, the truth is that there is nothing that can be done about it, okay? There are going to be smurfs. There are always going to be smurfs. But I made a video talking about this specifically, talking about the concept of like becoming your own smurf. And this is something that I did when I was climbing through Emerald that I think actually helped me a lot. And it pretty much is just a way to like look at the smurfing problem and change your mindset surrounding it. And by changing your mindset surrounding it, when you see a smurf in your game, it's less of like a, oh man, like there's a smurf in my game, it's not fair and I'm gonna lose and this and that. And it's more about looking at the smurf and saying, okay, this person's here and they're getting paid to literally boost accounts, right? And they're getting paid money to be better than everybody in this lobby. So this person is guaranteed better than everybody in the lobby, right? The player 1, player 2, player 3, player 4, right? They're better than everybody, including you, okay? Because if you were better than them, you would probably be winning the game, even if you beat them in the early game. Even if you beat them in the early game, you smash them in laning phase. If it's 30 minutes and they're now ahead of you, guess what? They did something to get ahead of you, okay? So rather than getting so upset that there's a smurf in your game, start looking at the smurfs as a way to as a example to analyze, to figure out, okay, what are these people doing that I'm not doing that I can start implementing into my games so that I can start winning games like the smurf, right? Because they're doing something. The best thing about League is that, it's not an athletic endeavor where your talent dictates like how far you can go. It's a lot more about your implementation of technique and strategy, right? So I would leave you with that. I would say that for me, this is how I got out of Emerald. I think that this is how you should look at the rank. I think that like there are definitely some valid concerns when surrounding Emerald with the distribution of skill and the smurfing problem. So don't feel like you're alone there. But these are the things that I had to do to kind of make myself capable of climbing and carrying games, despite the fact that sometimes there was like a skill gap or there was a smurf in my game. So I hope that this was helpful. If it was, please like and subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next one.